Times Lake Range Resort. Does lake effect snow have any, is that a positive, negative, neutral on the water flow?
We consider lake effect snow to be a drain, removing water from the lakes because it is a process of evaporation. Lake effect snow does occur. It's a way of life here in Michigan. But the snow that we really like to see is those systems that originate outside of the Great Lakes Basin that bring outside moisture into the Great Lakes. There's no guarantee that all of the water that's pulled out via lake effect is going to make it back into the lake it came from.
Kind of thought was the answer. The other one, creeks inland. Does the water levels in that, is that relatively the same to Lake Michigan, Huron, for instance? There's some creeks in Ottawa County here that I've been walking my dog, and it's been water all the time. This is the first year this fall it was a bone dry creek. Never ever before in 20 years.
Certainly we track inland stream flow. The agency that helps us do that's the USGS. They're the stream gauging agency. We use a lot of their data to get a feel for how much runoff is actually making it in to the Great Lakes from those streams and rivers. When you see rivers running high in the springtime, that's a good sign for lake levels come the summer.
Jim Giotto from north side of Holland. I moved here about 30 years ago, and I'm about 3/4 of a mile from the big lake, and there was so much erosion going on there in the late 60s that I thought, I might get some lakefront property, but that didn't happen. I'm also was a sailboater, and I certainly have bumped the bottom with the bottom of my boat more than once. I sold it last year. But you indicated there was speculation about 10-year or 35-year variations, and you discounted that. But I was talking to someone who referenced a Todd Thompson. I don't know what his title is, but apparently he's some guy.
He's a professor at used to be Indiana University. I'm not sure he's still there.
He sort of faded away because I think he got too old. That happens to most of us, by the way. Anyhow, you're talking about plans and money and all this sort of stuff for dredging, and certainly right now, boy, if I had my boat with almost 6 foot of draw, it'd be really nice to get some dredging on Lake Mac. But obviously all of this is monster amounts of money, because we're not just talking one lake like Lake Mac or what have you, making a ring. And if that 35 or so year cycle is actually true, then if Todd Thompson's research were right, then by 2018, 2019, we'd be seeing a upswing on the levels, and then all of this money that we may have spent would be for naught on the major projects, not just Lake Mac. Comment on that?
Well, I don't want to discount the research that has been done by people that are very much smarter than I am, and Todd Thompson is one of those people. He was a very respected researcher. And I don't mean to discount using our period of record, only goes back to 1918. I'm using that when I say there's no evidence of a cycle, because you just don't have enough data in that, not even 100 years of data to say there's a 33-year cycle. Todd Thompson's work went back many thousands of years looking at tree rings and beach ridges to determine his take on whether there are 33 or, that seems to be the common number is 33-year cycles. Just from the Corps of Engineers perspective and our coordinated water level period of record, we can't definitively say that there are cycles.
Hi, I'm Dave Calkins. I come from Muskegon. My question is, the St. Clair thing always causes a lot of consternation and discussion and secret meetings. And could you talk about that a little bit? Because I really don't understand it. So.
Sure. The attention that the St. Clair River is getting currently goes back to the middle 2000s when the Georgian Bay Association funded Baird and Associates to do a study of the St. Clair River, and that Baird report concluded some things about the St. Clair River. That also led to the International Upper Great Lakes study, which was funded by the IJC. And again, the Corps of Engineers was a large part of that. There are folks that claim that the St. Clair River is further eroding, and that is causing more water to be lost to downstream than at any other time before. The Upper Great Lakes study looked at all of the claims and came up with its own conclusions. The Corps of Engineers was a large part of that study. And as I mentioned before, it is widely accepted that the dredging and deepening projects of the St. Clair River of the past have permanently lowered Lakes Michigan Huron. There's no debating there. And that number is anywhere from 10 to 16 inches. But the important part is that water reaches its level. We have reached a new equilibrium, and there is not any further deepening going on due to dredging since 1962 or anything erosion related since 2000. Does that kind of answer some of the questions about the St. Clair River and where the interest is coming from?
I'm Ron Brown. I'm from Grand Rapids. And I don't think this has a giant effect on the lake level. But is there any information on how much water is diverted by the city of Chicago for drinking water?
That's accounted for in that 91 cubic meters per second or 3,200 cubic feet per second. The accounting reports are available on the Chicago District Corps of Engineers website. The body that is in charge of doing the accounting is the Metropolitan Wastewater Reclamation District of Chicago or something like that, and the Corps of Engineers is kind of the oversight on the accounting. All of the accounting reports are available on the Corps' website. Anybody can go look at them. But the Chicago's drinking water use is accounted for in that number.
I'm Dave Baumhoff. I live on Lake Mac in Holland. My land holdings are getting bigger. But I just have a question. I don't know if you can help me understand this or help us understand this. I have friends, family, etc. that have ponds. Some are northern Michigan, some are central Michigan. They're watching their pond levels go down. So I'm just curious how this all relates to groundwater levels, and if you can just help us kind of understand that a little bit.
Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of knowledge on groundwater. That's kind of outside the Corps of Engineers lane. We know that when the groundwater table tends to be high, those are the same conditions that allow Great Lakes water levels to be higher. I think the USGS is involved in groundwater monitoring, as well as local and government agencies, state government agencies monitor the groundwater table. And we just use that information. That's part of that current conditions information that we'll use when making a forecast. Any other questions?
I'm Fred Kelly. Live on Lake Mac in Holland. I've lived there since the mid-'60s. And that was a low point. And then in the mid-'80s, it was a high point. And at the high point, there seemed to have been more concern of on the part of homeowners than there was at the low point. But at that time, some of the meetings that were held, it was discussed the influence that the IJC had on particularly Lake Superior, but the flow from Superior into Michigan Huron, and their ability to regulate that, the levels of Superior. You didn't really touch on that directly in your talk. Are they still? I assume they still have the authority.
Yes, the IJC, through orders of approval, granted and created the International Lake Superior Board of Control. The International Lake Superior Board of Control is Corps of Engineers staff, along with Environment Canada staff, that determine once a month what the outflow setting of Lake Superior is into the St. Mary's River. The regulation plan is fixed. The plan pretty much decides what the outflow is going to be based on upstream and downstream water levels. And currently there is no deviation authority to go with any other flow other than what the plan tells us. Back in the 80s, the IJC issued emergency deviation authority to change the outflow because of the significant high water in the system, to try to limit shoreline property owner damage. But the board cannot do that on its own. It needs to go through the IJC and get approval to do that.
Okay.